Do you feel that in a time when we are more connected than ever, we are drifting away from real human connection, especially to ourselves? I do. Hi, I'm Leticia Latino, and I want to invite you to join me and my very inspiring guests in exploring ways to reconnect to your essence, to your definite purpose, to what makes you tick. Are you ready? Hello and welcome to Back to Basics. Today my guest is Andrea Ramirez. She's a passionate hypnotherapist, spiritual coach, and channeler dedicated to helping people overcome challenges and embrace personal growth. With a wealth of expertise in hypnotherapy, intuitive channeling, and energy work, Andrea is passionate about supporting transformational journeys with compassion and tailored guidance. She's also the co-founder of magicalaudios.com, an app developed to help the world improve their mental, emotional, and physical health. Hello there. And of course, I'm Venezuelan, so I'm going to say Andrea, but maybe it's Andrea.
Andrea is fine.
I could not resist. Sorry. Thanks for being part of Back to Basics.
Thank you for having me. I'm very glad to be here.
Well, I'm excited. And off audio, we were saying you're in Portugal right now. I don't think maybe one other guest I've interviewed while in Portugal. I'm proud of all the fun places our guests are at when we tape. So this is exciting. And, for somebody that's so into the spiritual world connectedness, my episodes always start with the origin story. What did you want to grow up to be? What did you dream about? And just if you guide us through a little bit of those early years, and then we'll translate it into what became.
Yes. So the early years, actually, what I wanted to become, I wanted to be something like a spy or some sort of Indiana Jones researcher kind of thing. I was always inspired by all these stories of, cartoons and Indiana Jones. And I thought that was so fun, to discover things that are hidden. So yeah, I didn't want to be anything else. I wanted to be something like that. And I wanted to speak many languages. And I was always creating codes, secret codes, and writing secret letters.
I like that. That's probably was gonna rank on the top of fun origin stories, I may say. I like that.
Well, that's what I wanted to be, right? But I grew up in Chile in the 1980s, so that's the Chile of the dictatorship. Very gray society, very gray way of thinking, not very nice. And to top that off, my mother is a textbook narcissist. So for a little child to grow up with a narcissistic parent or a primary caretaker is rather difficult. So very early on, I learned to be hypervigilant, to read very much into people's behaviors, and to kind of survive in a way, and to try to make it the most until I could have my own independence and do whatever I want. But I've always had these spiritual gifts. I've always had this capacity of hearing messages, tapping into certain, if you would call them, dimensions or places or spaces, and interact with energies and receiving messages. So that was very much something that kept me sane and helped me feel safe and hopeful and grounded and rooted in myself, to know that I am worthy and that all these things, that our life is much more than what we can see and we can touch, that there is a source of absolute infinite love and protection for all of us that we can't really see or experience all the time, but it's there and it's available for us. And then in 2018, I was diagnosed with a monster autoimmune flare-up that I was misdiagnosed for the first 6 months. And by the time I got to the ER, I was dying. The nurse took my vitals and her eyes almost fell out of her face. They put me on a table immediately and they run me to the ER. Everybody was panicking. And I spent a month in the hospital. Nobody really wanted to tell me what was going on. So, thanks to the chief nurse that had a weak spot for the Chileans, she was nice enough to come to me and break protocol and let me know what was happening. I had no idea what an autoimmune disease was because I've always been so healthy. And I thought it was really unfair that I was being told that that disease would never leave my body and that I will always be dependent on these awful medications, which side effects was leukemia.
Oh
So
my
you
God.
can choose your death kind of.
Oh
And
my God.
so I was like the first days I was really down in the hospital, but then as soon as the pain subsided and I could start again to read and look for information, I discovered Dr. Gabor Mate. And he is a specialist in trauma and he has a very compassionate approach to it. And he mentions that 80% of all autoimmune disease in the world are suffered by women. And he believes that it's because of societal conditioning, trauma, and societal conditioning. I think it's very broad because women always put other people's well being before theirs. We are identified with roles in society. So we forget about ourselves or we tend to leave ourselves last. We do the exact opposite of what it's told to us on the planes, right? If the oxygen mask drops, you have to put it on yourself and put it on somebody else, which makes absolute sense. But in real life, we put that mask onto everyone else except us. We always leave ourselves last. And I've realized that what happened to me was a mix of these mechanisms that I picked up growing up in order to survive this narcissistic situation. And at the same time, I was burned out from work because I had this business in Barcelona. I still have it. And I have this business in Barcelona, and I was this boss that had to take care of my family. I had to take care of the clients. I have to take care of the providers. I have to take care of everyone except myself. And so I reached a point that I absolutely was leaving myself behind, and my body said, this has to change. We have to stop this. I'm not going to kill you. I'm going to take you very close to it, but I'm not going to kill you just so hopefully understand.
Mm.
And in that space of time, I discovered hypnotherapy. I discovered that most of this programming is actually in our subconscious, and I became very intrigued by that. And as I've always been into this realm of spirituality and energies and things, I thought, wow, we have this subconscious mind that is aching to a divine mind. And it can change your life so quickly and so compassionately. And that's kind of when I make the point of becoming this Indiana Jones or this kind of spy or, like Inspector Gadget or whatever. Because learning about the subconscious really is a trip. It's a discovery. And I am a hypnotherapist probably for quite a few years now. I've treated lots of people, and I never cease to be amazed of how quickly our subconscious can actually change our reality, the way we work. Like I did it after I left the hospital, and it was incredible. I felt a level of happiness I've never felt in my heart. I was so energized suddenly, and I had the energy and the clarity to rearrange my life in a way that served me. And when everything started to serve me, to be at my service, this is when my company was working the best. This is when my interpersonal relationships were the best. And this is when people, opportunities, and circumstances actually showed up in front of me to help me continue to grow. So it's almost like magic, but there's a lot of science behind it. And it's something that I'm super, super passionate about.
That's so interesting as a journey. And yeah, I was making, you were saying about how you discover hypnotherapy and all that. And the Indiana Jones image came to me like, oh, well, she ended up discovering. So I think all you're saying is, I'm very curious about it. Where do you say that most of us kind of get stuck? Like, and I've talked about this in other uh, episodes with people that are into energy as well. Like, it's almost like we are separated, our physical world and our spiritual and energy world. And so you work with so many people. Is it curiosity the first ingredient to get us there, or what do you think? Or is it a major um, crisis, as you had, like they say, sometimes the universe does it for you when you have failed to correct an imbalance in your life, then the universe, or whatever it is that we call it, God, or like they have to, whatever it is, it pushes us to like correct it. What's your take on that?
I think it's the crisis. As humans, I think we respond more to crisis, because if our life was all easy and rosy and wonderful, we would never take care of our shortcomings or shadow side, anything that it's actually preventing us to have a fulfilling life. And I remember many years ago, I don't know if this is true, but I thought it was quite fascinating. Somebody mentioned that the monks, the Buddhist monks in Tibet, when they died, they were put in these special urns, and over time, their bodies were so like eroded, and they turned into little pieces that looked like tears, like little droplets. And this tear shape was to show us that although we seek for this nirvana state of mind, this happiness, this constant happiness in our life, intrinsically we are shaped by the conditions that are not the easiest,
Mhm.
usually trauma or anything that could happen to us that is not easy to deal with, to digest. Shocking things, deaths or accidents, all these things is like major calls to stop and rearrange and rethink our lives. I think it's unfortunately the way that we learn. We're like little kids that need time out in order to
Mhm.
think about it and change the trajectory.
Mm. That is so interesting. I do agree with you. Like crisis. I mean, even in my own life, like when I felt like I hit rock bottom, that's where you find some crazy strength from somewhere. Like it's almost like you go to the source itself, and you connect to that source. And then, because if you have nothing, then you're not going to lose anything, and so you really have to connect to what is. There can be nothing. So it's very powerful. And I read somewhere else that, of course, crisis brings suffering, and the suffering, I asked somebody why suffering. I said because it's cleansing. And I do believe that we shed everything that doesn't serve us through suffering, and we really like become authentic to our own being. So that's my own interpretation, but I'm happy it doesn't go that far away from what you're saying. I think.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's absolutely that. And if you think about it, everything is energy, even suffering and sadness and angry, like being angry, it's energy. So energy is malleable. We can transform it. And when we are in that place of suffering, when we get to that point, when we decide to make a change, suddenly all that energy of suffering, of anger, of despair, or when you feel that everything is so unfair or something, that energy can shift into rocket fuel. It can rocket fuel your life. It can help you to see opportunities, to see avenues of change, to find within yourself and around you possibilities that will help you achieve that better version of yourself. Although I don't like that per se with those terms, but I think to tap into our full potential and actually develop ourselves more to have a more fulfilled life.
Interesting. And so, Andrea, question for you would be around hypnotherapy. So, some people have heard the term. Some people have never heard the term. I had once upon a time, I had the dream of birthing my son naturally. So I did take a hypnobirthing class and was
Mm-hmm.
very, very interesting. Eventually, it wasn't possible after 14 hours of labor, but I was always very curious about that. And I'm happy because I learned stuff there that even if it was a hypnobirthing class, it was very useful. So for somebody that's never heard about it, doesn't know anything about it, what can you share so that they understand what it is?
So, hypnotherapy, think about it as a very deep type of meditation or a guided meditation where you don't have to do anything. Um, our mind, we have two minds. We have the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. So the conscious mind, it's only 5% of the actual mind that we use throughout our day, and the 95% is was actually running the show. So we're running our lives in our subconscious mind. And what is our subconscious mind? Our subconscious mind is like a motherboard that from the ages, let's say the last 3 months of our mother's pregnancy until 7 years old, our brains are working on theta brain waves, which translating into like simple terms, it's hypnosis. So everything that happened to us in that period of time gets saved in that motherboard of our subconscious mind as programs. And that those programs become the blueprint on which we run our lives when we are adults. So what does hypnotherapy do? Hypnotherapy helps you access that 95% of your subconscious mind. And just like the apps on a phone, to maybe take that program, take that app that you picked up when you were a child that is no longer serving you, that is taking you to have bad habits or a line of a mindset that is negative or destructive to your life, and upgrade it, update it, or simply just get rid of it. The thing is, the hypnotherapy as a therapeutic process is this very deep relaxation process that like a meditation where our minds are very susceptible to suggestion. So what do? I just ask your subconscious mind, look, we have this problem, we have this addiction. I understand that your job is to protect us. I understand that your job is to protect this person, but can you find a better way to achieve same purpose without that old behavior? And then subconscious mind answers. So it's like a conversation that I have with subconscious mind, and subconscious mind finds the best possible outcome for you personally. I don't put any programs in you. I don't say, okay, you're going to stop smoking, and you stop smoking, but lo and behold, now you're addicted to sugar because we did not take care of the root cause of the addiction or the bad habit. And so having this conversation with subconscious in its immense creativity and in immense amount of resources, picks what is best for you. During this time, you are like taking a nap. And I use things like metaphor, also NLP, which is, I like to call it the language of the brain. And through this kind of conversation, at the end of the session, you go through a process of kind of waking up or resurfacing to your conscious mind, and it is basically done. The way I work, between 1 and 3 sessions is enough most times. And it's very nice because you don't know what to expect. You know something is changing, but it's not something that you can outline. For example, I had this person that used to grind her teeth very badly. She was running them down. We did 2 sessions. She stopped doing it. And suddenly she started picking up in all these projects she left halfway done. And she became incredibly creative, and she started creating incredible stuff. And until now, she is working with all these projects that she had created, and she's doing really well. So you could think, okay, we're going to stop grinding our teeth and now we're going to feel more relaxed. But maybe what the subconscious means is, well, I was grinding my teeth because I didn't know how to express that creativity in a safe way that I don't feel threatened. And so now that we dealt with this, I can express creativity in a way that is safe and that it's beneficial for me and for all the people that I want to touch with my projects. So it's very, very interesting. Our mind is so powerful and our subconscious is deeply, deeply connected with our bodies. So you become more conscious also of the sensations in your body and attributing a meaning to it that it's only meaningful to yourself.
Mm. Well, it's fascinating indeed. And I know, and thank you for that explanation. I think it's very good. And I like how you also link it to science, because I've had in the show neuroscientists, and I mean, had a few episodes that are incredible that, were from really accomplished neuroscientists talking about the spiritual aspect and really like proving with tests and facts, like hard facts about how it's all related. And it really, to me, is common sense. It's like even accessing your memories, right? Like we cannot, like something that happened maybe last month, we cannot really, as much as we try, we remember the event, but we don't remember it with the clarity that we know our our power and the power in our brain has. And I've always been curious about, like, we have such a powerful brain. How come we cannot access memories and in a more efficient way? I've always been curious about that. And so definitely I believe that there's a lot that we are not tapping or correcting, or that is not working on to serve us the best way. I also know you do with the hypnotherapy, you also big on spiritual coaching, and I know that spirit has a part to play in your practice. So, what can you share on that front?
Before every session, I like to go into channel and I like to connect with the, let's say, higher self of the person that I'm going to be working with. I always ask for advice if there is anything that I should ask or look into or be mindful of. And I like to set the energy, so to speak, so the session happens in the most respectful and compassionate and effective way as possible. Because people come to you with a question, with an issue, and that is just a label of something else that might be happening in the background. And I am not anyone to say to people, okay, this is happening to you, you just don't know it. So I don't work like that. I like to ask for my advice. I like to set the tone and the energy so everybody is aligned and the person is as receptive as possible, and that the messages that I can share with them through the hypnotic process can be as effective as possible. And within the spiritual coaching, there is also Reiki, there's a lot of energy healing. There is also working with subconscious through tarot, because tarot is a very abstract language. And sometimes the things that we cannot say in words, we can identify in the pictures. And just by looking at the pictures of the tarot and giving them meaning, suddenly you can tell your story. Suddenly you can say what you feel. You can find the words. And it's very powerful. It's all had to do with the subconscious. And circling back a little bit to what you said, that why it's so difficult for us to access, for example, our memories or anything that has to do with that part that is subconscious, is because our brain is designed to help us survive. Our brain is not designed to make us happy. So our brain is always going to choose to have little bits of information that are like bullet points in a lecture instead of remembering the whole lecture, because that information is not useful for your survival. And this is why we need to be very mindful of everything we consume, not just the foods, not just the waters or the liquids, but also everything we consume in social media, in the news, the way we talk to ourselves, the way we talk to other people, because this goes straight into our subconscious mind. We are 95% of the day working with our subconscious mind. That means that every time we do the doom scrolling, we are putting ourselves in a trance-like state. Every time we're watching a movie and we're absorbed by it, we are in a trance-like state. Every time we listen to the songs, every time we listen to the news, we enter into this trance-like state because we are taking these bullet point notes with our brain of things that are useful for us, but everything else goes straight into our subconscious. So the songs that you listen to, maybe you don't realize what you're listening because sometimes it's difficult to understand what the singers are actually singing. But if you look at the lyrics, you realize how awful most of the songs are. And we are programming ourselves with that. When we do the doom scrolling, is the same. Even if you say, oh no, I just only like to look at little cats and dog videos. Well, everything in between that you swipe, you still see it. Your brain still sees it. And because our brain is there to help us survive, it will always be leaning towards negative thinking. Because if we were all like happy all the time, we would even look side to side before crossing the street. We wouldn't care what kind of bottle we put in our mouth and drink. We wouldn't even look at the expiration dates of any products. We would just be happy go lucky and we'll probably die. So our brain's number one job is to protect us, just as our subconscious is. And our brain has this leniency to be very negative. So most people that are trapped in a negative loop, I would say one of the first things you can do consciously is to really monitor what you consume, what you are surrounded with, the kind of conversations you chip in, the kind of stuff that excites you, because sometimes we are trapped in the negative excitement, bad news, gossip, all these kind of things. So this is why it's difficult sometimes to put names to what we feel, because the feelings are our subconscious, and because it's abstract, we can't really put conscious words or labels on it all the time. And because of that, some people, most of us at some point or another, disconnect from the feelings so we don't suffer. And this is also something that our subconscious does to protect us. And this is why it's so important that when you go to someone to work on yourself, whether it's a therapist, a hypnotherapist, or anyone that works with subconscious or thought processes, that is someone that won't try to do a cookie cutting technique on you, but it's someone that will allow you, that will hold space for you, to allow you to find your truth, to very lovingly and compassionately guide you, facilitate your healing. Because there is a lot of judgment in the medical world, there is a lot of judgment in the spiritual world. This happened to you because of this and this and that. Well, it wasn't my fault that I went through this trauma. It wasn't my fault that I had this accident. It's not my fault that I have this autoimmune disease, not consciously, maybe subconsciously, but it's not my fault. It's an experience. It's something that needs to be experienced, learned from, healed, and moving on.
Well, I so much wisdom in there. I rarely finish. I always show my notes, but I have both pages filled. Like so. That's just a great episode, at least for me. But I like the fact that you bring judgment because I personally, sometimes I don't feel I fit because I am very, like, I like my facts and I'm like statistics and all that, but I'm also, Catholic. And so there's the religion. So I want to ask to you about that because I feel some people that are very devout in practicing into the religion, that then there's a side of the spiritual world. And I've shared this and I had actually my priest from the parish, because I've had some other Catholics say, you don't meditate, meditate is a sin. And I'm like, meditating is prayer to me. It's not like, like because we label these things in such a way that there's no space. There's no space to say, well, prayer to me is meditation too. Then the priest say it too. But I think we all label things differently. So my question to you is, have you experienced that? I don't know if you're religious or not, or maybe you have clients that are religious, because I think this is a big, maybe entry barrier for a lot of people into hypnotherapy, or even tapping into energy or anything like that, because they believe they're doing something they shouldn't be doing.
Yeah. Well, this is why I'm very happy that science is kind of starting to back up all these phenomena, if you will, because it's not woo-woo anymore. Many of these things are being backed by science and still demonized, by the way. But, like I grew up in Chile of the 80s, a Catholic country, very gray. Nobody could do anything too exciting because, the neighbors could, call on you to the police or whatever. It was very strange. But all the women in my family, all of them, they have some gifts. They can either dream what's going to happen the next day or the next month or whatever. They can see remotely, you name it, manifesting, whatever. And when I started having these experiences as a child, I said to them that I started to experience this, and all of them said, "Oh no, this is from the devil. You have to stop doing it." And I was like, "But why? Like, you all have it and you all do it. Why are you telling me?" And I understand it was this societal aspect of it, that because you are in that structure of religion, you are not allowed to talk about these things or share about these things because they are kind of frowned upon. But like you say, like, religion is a very organized way of bringing spirituality to people. It has a set of rules, it has a structure, it has a dogma that you must respect. I started with religion. My family went through different religions as I was growing up. And I understand that this helps a lot of people. And it did help me at some point because there is also community. And this is very important. Sometimes in the spiritual world, you don't find that because it's not organized that way. But I also understand that religion is a great, like a trampoline to a greater understanding of what God is and what God wants for us and what is the purpose of his creation or her creation or its creation. And I believe that while religion is like the little wheels that you put on the sides of the bike when you're training and you're learning to ride the bike, these little wheels eventually can come off if you don't feel comfortable with them, or if you feel like they're keeping you from actually running that bike and going cross country and do whatever you want with your spirituality. I think it's a good frame for some people, and I absolutely respect it because I've been there. But I also understand that it could be very scary to be alone, discovering your own aspect of spirituality, because we are such incredible beings. We have been created to God's image or the universe's image or the creator's image, right? But not only that, just by working with the subconscious, I understand that we are connected. We have that spark, that divine spark that lives in our brain. We have a subconscious mind that is so creative and so powerful. It can heal your body. It can heal any experience that you had in the past. It can make a complete 180-degree change in anyone's life. And you don't even need to think about it too much. You just have to connect with that deeper aspect of self. But in that deeper aspect of self, there's also lots of shadow. There's also lots of trauma and fear and demonizing. So when you start discovering your own spirituality, I think it's very linked to sexuality almost, because it's also very stigmatized. It's also very dark and frowned upon. And self-discovery, either in spirituality or sexuality, could be very scary and is demonized, depending on who is telling the story. And they're
Mm.
both connected very much with death, the death of my personality, the death of who I believe I am, the death of how others see me, the death of who I believe I am, the constructs that I have built for myself. Because when you go very deep within, when you know yourself, spirituality becomes this huge ocean and you are just a drop in it. Suddenly, these barriers and these borders are erased and you are one with creation. And then you have to rebuild yourself. Who am I? What is my role in this world? What is my space in this world? And when it comes from a point that is heart centered, that is honest and truthful and not selfish, but you want to share something with the world, I think this is when we completely shift and spirituality becomes something that is like a common sense, like you say, that you don't need someone to come with a set of rules to tell you what's good and what's not. You wouldn't do it to yourself, so you wouldn't do it to somebody else. It's a lot about responsibility, and many people don't like that word.
Mm. Oh, wow. There's a lot there to unpack. So I know that you also part of your mission and passion is to help others. And so you created magicalaudios.com. So share a little bit about what's your goal with that and how can people access the incredible wisdom you share there.
So, Magical Audios is created by three women, one of them being me. And it's our child. We love it. We created it because the three of us have been through burnout in different aspects of life, whether it's work, family, medical burnout. And when we discovered that this is actually mostly a women's problem, a women's issue, we decided to use hypnotherapy by making self hypnosis audios to help women overcome burnout. Hopefully, in the future, we will create more to help women go through perimenopause and menopause because it's a very, very big change. And we find ourselves lacking that very deep support. And so we have created these self hypnosis audios. We have created self hypnosis 7-day programs that are very accessible for women, but although we also have men doing them because the language is very neutral, that's very nice. And they're basically for overcoming burnout, for better sleep, and for confidence, which is also directed to help with anxiety. And besides that, we have a library of around 70 audios that are mixed with meditations, affirmations, visualizations, plus a lot of self hypnosis, the same things that you find in the program you find there. And we wanted to make it very accessible and to try to share as much as possible free audios for people to try if they have never tried it before. So if somebody would like to really learn about it and try it, they can go to magicalaudios.com. They will have all the information there. We do a lot of events. We are now doing lives every weekend to share a little bit more about how to help yourself to regulate your nervous system, to learn tools, practical tools, real-time tools that you can use. And we're basically looking to support people. We're looking to build this community and just share as much as we can because we think it's kind of unfair that some of these very powerful tools are so kind of put in an altar of sorts, and many people feel like they can't have access to them or that is not for them. This is for everybody that wants to try it.
Well, I can testify because in prepping for every interview, I go to my guest webpage. So I did one of your videos, of your audios actually. And I have to say that was my morning meditation today. And I'll share something very special because in the meditation or in the burnout audio I read, and today's St. Joseph, and we've spoken about that. I'm Catholic. My first name is like my grandmother, Giuseppina, although I don't use it. But I'm telling you, I don't know why, but I was in my grandmother's house. Like there's a part where you say go down the stairs, and I don't know why that's where I was placed, going down my grandma's stairs, which is a Giuseppina too. So on St. Joseph's Day, I was able to connect with that for whatever reason. So thank you. You gave me a nice gift in preparing for this
Ah,
interview
I'm
because,
glad to
I'm
hear it.
talking about memories. I have not been in that house mentally in such a detail, like in those 8 minutes that I was
That's
prepping for this
wonderful.
interview.
That's wonderful and very comforting for sure. Because if you went there with your mind while you were doing this exercise during the self hypnosis, it's because it's somewhere that you feel really comfortable and welcome, and that you can basically rest there.
Yes, that's my back to basics place. So that's how even this podcast came to be. But I mean, this is amazing. I feel almost bad because I do this podcast to inspire others, but I've been very inspired today by all this knowledge. So I thank you, Andrea. I always give the chance to for my guests to share anything. Is there anything else that you're very, very excited about, or anything that I missed that you want to share with the audience?
Well, basically, just the one tip to be very mindful about what you consume. I think we're in a critical moment in our world and in as humanity, that we really need to pick and choose exactly what we need, what we want to look at. The news, we need to filter them. Everything we hear, everything we look at, we really need to be very mindful, and mindfully also put good stuff in ourselves. It's not only about avoiding the stuff that might hurt us, but putting good stuff in ourselves. Because there is this thing that, like a study, that when there are two cells one next to the other vibrating in the same speed, when one of them starts vibrating faster, the other one picks up and then takes off. Meaning that if you are in a high vibration, in a vibration of love and hope and happiness, you don't have to do anything. Your energy is tapping into the energy of all the people around you and helping them in become more heart center, more focused, happier, to heal. And so we change the world not by only going out and demonstrating, but we change the world when we change ourselves. If we all take care of ourselves or changing our inner world, we can change the world, and we can live in the most wonderful world, because we all want to love and be loved. We all want happiness. We all want to be at peace. So why not start with ourselves? I think this is the number one thing. And second is go to magicalaudios.com, check it
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
And my website is also andreahypno.com, like short for hypnosis. You have a wealth of information if you would like to know what this hypnosis thing is about. And also lots of studies, so you know that science have proved how helpful it can be, not only changing mindset, but also helping recovering from illnesses and many, many other things.
Absolutely. It all will be on our show notes. So I thank you for that. And the last question, Sandra, it's what makes you tick besides getting people where they want to go and reignite and reshuffling the people's subconsciousness?
Well, what makes me tick is when I find these points in myself that I thought I had forgotten. I don't know how to explain it very clearly. It's Mercury retrograde also, but um, for example, there are certain songs or certain things, or like what you said, going down the stairs and connecting with your grandma's place. I find a lot of joy when these flashes come back into my life, when I connect through a song to a very happy memory. And then I think of something that I really wished in the past that now I have lived, or I have accomplished, or I'm on the way to doing so. And I like to honor these moments, and I like to express this gratitude, because I don't think there is a higher vibrational feeling or thing to do than to be grateful. And it really makes me tick when I am looking consciously for these points during the day when things pop up and I'm like, oh yeah, this, I'm so grateful that I get to do this. I'm so grateful that I remember this beautiful pie that I ate like 15 years ago. That was great. I don't care. It's the smallest thing. But it's like rediscovering myself, because I spent a good amount of my life because of trauma that I couldn't recall many things. So remembering, and remembering the nice things, it's a great change for me.
I love it. I love it. Great answer. It really resonates with staying connected with who you are. If you're really there again at the source, then all those wonderful magical moments are available to you. So this has
Absolutely,
been
yes.
great. I'm very grateful to you and to your time and for this interview. I know it's gonna provide a few aha moments to others like it did for me. My biggest takeaway for this that I normally share is on the post, but I will share it is our brain is designed to make us survive, not to make us happy. That's
Yeah.
kind of my biggest takeaway from this interview. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Leticia.
And to all out there, please review, like, and check out Andrea's page. And until a new episode of Back to Basics. Bye-bye. You've been listening to Back to Basics. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook. If you haven't yet, subscribe, rate, and review this podcast on Apple Podcast or any of your favorite streaming platforms. This is the best gift you can give us. Join me next week for another Back to Basics conversation. And if you want to find out about other exciting things I'm working on, visit leticialatino.com. Thank you, and until the next time.